need to focus upon. The second, when we looked into geopolitical or political economy, sometimes I was as a life laughing at myself, because what we try to do in our personal life, we do not do in the national way. And if we do it in that way, perhaps it would be important to be successful regional integration. Basically, I found is lack of communication. Everybody who is married knows he or her, they fight with your wife. At some point of time, there is a small, lack of communication, but you live in the same house. Neighborhood is something like that. You cannot just get away with the house. And the problem is, whenever these political aberrations come, you stop communicating. And when you stop communicating, everything gets derailed. And thereby, I agree with my colleagues, and including Ram Upendra, when he said, actually, this forum, and that is now I come to the larger intention and objective of this workshop today, to bring in all the think tanks, that if the government is not communicating among themselves, at least we can communicate among themselves. We can be the advocates, and that is the intention of this workshop today, that we are very happy to be part of getting everybody from this region and then getting into. The issue is, if you look into purely trade, the bilateralism, sir, is already favoring more than what SAFTA or BIMSTEC is. So it has to fail. And if we can look at some other areas, what you are talking about, success stories. Yes, there are success stories. When there was an earthquake in Nepal, the first aid was to go immediately within hours was from India. But we don't reap on these benefits. Something yesterday also we were talking about in Bangladesh, that there was a problem and India helped at that moment of time. We need to look beyond trade if we really want this regional cooperation to happen, which will then force regional integration. The other thing which I wanted to flag in this is, another aspect of regional cooperation is the LDC graduation for the LDCs in South Asia. Bhutan is at the verge, at the gate. Bangladesh has committed. Nepal is already there. Now, when you talk about trade and you talk about balance of trade against India, adverse balance of trade against India, 5 years, 7 years later, when you graduate from the LDC, what are you going to do? And these are the areas which we need to really work upon to really make regional cooperation successful, and that will also aid helping achieving the sustainable development goals. Otherwise, we'll continue talking, as Ram Upendra was saying, 28 years, only listening about trade and other things. But this is time when we need to go beyond that. Thank you.
Thank you. Very significant points brought out by you. I would also like to ask Ram Upendra about this last issue of graduation. Because as I understand, Bangladesh would graduate graduate out of the LDC status sometime after a year or two. That's what we hear? By 2021, yeah, 2 years. Okay. And the others may sooner or later. So I would like you to react to this potential development, and how is the South Asian economy going to get affected, particularly the relevant nation's economy?
Thank you, sir. Let me first begin with the technology issue which you just mentioned. I think, again, it was very eminently brought out by Dr. Ratna, that we have to move beyond trade. Both at the theoretical level and empirical level, we are failing to recognize one very important reality, that there is a very high correlation between the stage of development and technology frontier. If you see the countries that are developed, they are also technology leaders. And you were there, we just came from WTO Public Forum in Geneva. Though the focus was Trade 2030, but at least 20 sessions were just on IT, digital trade, competition policy, and digital economy coupled with artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, robotics, machine learning, blockchain. I don't think South Asia is even discussing. And the world has actually moved beyond the discussions. They are talking about regulatory frameworks, because digital is going to blur the national borders even more. And therefore, we will be forced to interact as South Asian entity through digital seamlessness. And that is where it is very important that we set the rules ourselves by understanding these issues a priori, rather than somebody else gives us the regulation and then we just sign on the dotted line. This is point number one. Second is about the LDC graduation. I remember with Dr. Nagesh, Dr. Ratna and yourself, when Maldives was actually graduating and SAFTA was about to be, concluded and signed. And that was the time that a revenue compensation mechanism was inbuilt because Maldives would be losing out on preferential tariff which it used to receive as LDC once it becomes a developing country. Now, the same problem is going to happen with those countries that are going to graduate. Their special and differential treatment would have to be sacrificed. So therefore, again, as the point was made, the time has come to go beyond, beyond issues that we have been discussing and look into the future. And that will elicit better and more coordinated and cohesive responses. One last point, sir. India and role of India. When we talk of South Asian economic integration, of course there is an asymmetry in all respects. And India is supposed to play a leadership role. And this is a refrain from other South Asian partners. At the same time, when India tries to provide a leadership into something, as in the case of unilateral concession in trade in goods, as in the case of trade in services, we are ready to move ahead with investment. There is apprehension about India. Why India is championing this cause? So this dilemma, which is there in the LDC's mind, that on one hand they want India's leadership to take asymmetric burden, but when India provides the leadership, you are afraid of India. That has to be resolved. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I have overshot by 5 minutes, but I would, in the interest of democracy, I would give half a minute to each of you.
Well, I just wanted to highlight the silver lining here, the positive side of technology. And I think that technology is actually breaking the barriers existing in our countries. For example, India and Pakistan, we don't have telephone roaming. But now, who requires telephone roaming when I can get connected to Wi-Fi and I can use my WhatsApp anywhere? So I keep on telling my policymakers in Pakistan that they should take a first step and they should allow roaming. At least this will bring some revenue to the telecommunication companies if we have roaming. Otherwise, it's just a barrier. Second thing, we don't allow our news channels. You can't have Pakistani news channels in India. We can't have Indian news channels in Pakistan. But who needs to see news channels on cable or on when we can see live stream? So I am on live stream, so I can immediately watch NDTV. I can go to any of the channels and I can watch 24/7. We don't allow our newspapers to get exchanged. I come from a village which is only 2.5 kilometers from Indian border on Jammu and Sialkot, this Gurdaspur. So every time I see any news item or I hear from my village people getting killed due to Indian firing, I immediately go and I check Indian newspapers and I find that some Indians also get killed by Pakistani firing. So you don't hear any news story that due to the firing some Pakistani civilians got killed. We never hear any news story that due to our firing some Indians got killed. But now with this technology, we can immediately go to the newspapers and one can relate, okay, there was some instance. And again, with the use of technology, if both governments agree, they can find the solution that who started the firing first. So with this geo mapping and satellite sensing, it's not a difficult thing. So this blame game can be, I think, reduced. And another point, the whole use of Alibaba and Amazon, again, the technology. I remember when I used to come to India, all of my relatives, they used to give me this long list of items that I had to take back from India. Now I hardly go to the markets because the families back home, they can go online, Alibaba, Amazon, they can order whatever they want to order. Any Indian product, it will get delivered. And so I think these sort of things, they are making their own way, and perhaps they would shape the future of South Asia regional connectivity. If we keep on ignoring these things, they would automatically take over. So I just want to end my comments on this optimistic note.
Dr. Pandey, 30 seconds, please.
Okay, while we are talking about this digital economy, I mean, we have to be clear that it's not only digital economy, but it's the simultaneous use and integration of other, technology also, like nanotechnology, gene sequencing, or for that matter, quantum computing. I mean, we are just integrating all this technology in one technology. And that is, it's not only, digital. And here, how can South Asian countries can cooperate? The first would be, to build data economy, particularly, within the region, and so that we can use, this big data or artificial intelligence or robotics in our manufacturing process. That is, one area, for cooperation. And second is, we can cooperate in pooling data. Pooling data in the sense, like saying, first we need to identify, which are personal data. We have to, cooperate on defining on that. And another, which data can free flow within the region. That would be, another area of cooperation. And for this, looking at this technological development, India can lead, in digital economy, particularly in developing infrastructure. Maybe infrastructure for cloud computing or artificial intelligence or robotics or 3D printing. Here India can take the lead, and India can be, growth poles for this digital economy. And the second factor, when we talk about this data, artificial intelligence, all these things, then comes the issues of e-commerce. And here again, India can lead on issues of e-commerce. And here, basically, we can cooperate on issues of, say, how we are going to have cross-border contracts. On that issues, we can cooperate. And similarly, on regulation and consumer protection, or maybe delivery mechanism. On these issues, we can cooperate. And another factor is basically that's the e-governance. India is quite far ahead in e-governance. When I'm talking about e-governance, it's between G2C, government to consumer, G2B, business. Again, from government to government employee. There are different mechanisms India is operating, and we can cooperate on that issue. And on issues of just 30 seconds. On issues of LDC graduation. My request is, let's not, make it big hype of this LDC graduations. For us, for LDC countries, it's simply a milestone in our this such long-term sustainable development process. And it doesn't, if we graduate, it's not going to solve all our, development problem. Neither it creates any, new development problems. It's simply continuation of existing development problem. That is low productive capacity, low productivity, less diversified economy, low exposure. All these problems will continue. There won't be any change. It's simply a milestone in our long-term development process. Okay,
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Well, I should have opened the discussion to the floor, but I'm sorry, I'm already overshot the time frame. You have heard the speakers. We brought in a very comprehensive area of discussion. Each of these issues require one session, and I'm sure in our respective verticals of thought processes, we will take up these issues over the year or so. I think what is very important, the take from this discussion is essentially that the old issues need to give in to the new issues. There are a whole lot of new challenges which have come in the meanwhile. You cannot go on basing the discourse on South Asia cooperation on age-old issues. Newer issues have come up which are far more challenging, and therefore the solutions will have to be found in an integrated manner. The research institutions and think tanks don't just have the role of working on these ideas and thoughts, but also the much more important idea of advocating with their respective governments and stakeholders. I think that is the biggest challenge in my view for research institutions, rather than simply focusing on writing papers on these issues, but the advocacy is perhaps because the big thing in South Asia is the mindset, the question of trust which is being talked about. So at this point, I'll stop and thank my panelists, all of them, each of them, because it was a very participative and a very useful discussion. And my apologies to my audience and compliments to all of you for not giving you the floor and also for the fact that you participated in the exercise by listening to all of them. Thank you very much. Okay, so we will have a photograph. No, I will. Our.